In this short episode, we will touch upon the law, its meaning, its nature, and its purpose. A simple and common definition of law is rules created and enforced by governmental institutions to regulate behavior. Other institutions have rules, but those organizations are voluntary, so if you don't want to be subject to them, you do not have to obey their rules. This would mean you can no longer be a member, so to speak, of their organization, but they cannot force you to obey it like government can. Laws created by civil government, however, are backed by force and the threat or use of violence. You cannot claim you're no longer a member. It doesn't care. They will force you to obey whether you agree or not, whether you want to be a so-called member or not. Another definition of law I would like to share comes from the 19th century French philosopher Frédéric Bastiat. He defines law as the collective organization of the individual and natural right to lawful defense. This definition implies a limit to what laws may do by including, to a certain extent, the origins and purpose of law, of civil government. He explains that if every person has the right to defend, even by force, his person, his liberty, and his property, then it follows that a group of men, i.e. government, have the right to organize and support a common force to protect those rights constantly. Thus, civil government gets its authority from the people and is limited to defending the individual rights of life, liberty, and property. The first definition gives no inclination as to the purpose of law or government, and by extension, the moral facet of law. This is significant because of the nature of law. Law by its very nature encompasses the concept of justice. That's because the nature of law is to demarcate what is right and what is wrong. If something is legal, it is believed to be right and good, to be just. If something is illegal, it is believed to be wrong and bad, unjust. That means the source of law is incredibly significant, because the source is what determines right from wrong. To have the authority to determine what is good and what is evil is to make that authority divine. As theologian R.J. Rushdoony said, the source of law in any society is the God of that social order. If the source is the majority, then the majority is the God of society. If the source is a monarch or president, then the king or queen or president is the God of society. If it's the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court is the God of society. Finally, since the nature of law is to demarcate that which is just from that which is unjust, the purpose of law is to promote justice. The primary reason people create laws is to encourage justice and punish injustice, to protect life, liberty, and property, to establish domestic tranquility and promote community. Of course, that can only happen successfully when laws are consistent with the highest laws everybody is subject to. Again, from theologian R.J. Rushdoony, the basic function of law is to restrain, not to regenerate. And when the function of the law is changed from the restraint of evil to the regeneration of man and society, then law itself begins to break down, because an impossible burden is being placed upon it. Only as we return to a biblical foundation for law shall we again have a return to justice and order under law. Today, however, in our postmodern, post-Christian society, there are some who argue that laws are to be understood simply as social rules, that laws are inherently valid because they are enacted by authority, or are derived logically from precedent, from existing decisions. They claim that ideal or moral considerations, for instance, that a rule is unjust, should not limit the scope or operation of the law. These people argue that making something legal makes it right, and making something illegal makes it wrong. This philosophical system is known as positivism. If it's legal, it's just. If it's illegal, it's unjust. There are no moral absolutes. Justice and injustice change when the law changes. It is a relativist system with which we should vehemently disagree.